10 disturbing Alaskan horror stories that haunt you even in your sleep. Never to the frozen winds howled through the desolate wilderness of Alaska, whispering tales so terrifying they would curdle your blood. A place where the northern lights dance high above in brilliant hues, but below, darkness breeds secrets that would make anyone's skin crawl. All around, the towering pines loom like silent sentinels, their shadows stretching ominously across the snow. Something stirs in the silence, something hungry that watches your every move. It pulls you in, daring you to step deeper into the unknown. Imagine a lonely cabin, buried deep in the woods, where hikers have vanished without a trace. Right at that spot, locals claim to hear disembodied voices floating on the wind, calling out for help, or perhaps just luring in the next unsuspecting wanderer. How could so many have gone missing, with no sign left behind? These aren't just stories. They are chilling echoes of lost souls that forever roam the frost-bitten terrain, never to return home. But that's not all. On moonless nights, a haunting frost creeps from the earth, a frost laden with an unsettling presence that leaves behind an unbearable tightness in your chest. Folks in small towns whisper about the night stalker, a figure said to emerge from the snow, cloaked and ghostly, feeding off the fear of those it hunts. Eyes wide with terror, they recount tales of encounters of heartbeats quickening, trembling hands clutching warmth in pitch-black despair. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dusk falls over the land, disquiet settles in like a thick fog, and a strange unease fills the air, knotting stomachs and raising goosebumps. Shadows merge and twist, meld into figures that seem to watch from the edge of the tree-line. You glance over your shoulder, but all is still. Or is it? You're left in a gnawing uncertainty, heart racing, longing for the warmth of the firelight, yet terrified to step away from that which could be stalking you. What secrets lie in wait? What darkness festers, eager to consume the unwary? Every heartbeat quickens with the dread of what could emerge next from the frost-shrouded night. The night pressed in around the cabin like a weight, the chill creeping under the door and settling deep in your bones. The fire crackled and flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls, each leap of flame a reminder of warmth in the suffocating cold. But those shadows, they felt alive, stretching and curling in ways that sent electric chills down your spine. You shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around your shoulders. Outside, the howling wind intensified, and with it came a sound of faint whisper, barely audible over the wind's roar. Was it the cabin settling? Or something else entirely? You forced yourself to look outside, peering through the frosted window. The snow lay in an unbroken blanket, sparkling faintly under the stars. But as you squinted into the darkness, you saw a shape. Just beyond the tree line, something moved. Someone. A figure, barely discernible, wrapped in a cloak of snow and shadow, swaying gently as if beckoning you. Your heart pounded, panic racing through your veins. Could this be the night stalker? The stories flashed through your mind, tales of those who had wandered into the wilderness and never returned. You urged yourself to ignore it, persuaded that it was nothing more than a trick of the light or perhaps even your mind playing games in the lonely hours of night. But deep down, a voice whispered, "What if it isn't?" Unable to resist, you grabbed your coat and slipped on your boots. The cold air sliced through you as you stepped outside, the crunch of snow underfoot breaking the stillness. The figure was still there, unmoving now, almost expecting your approach. You hesitated, instinct screaming at you to turn back. But curiosity tugged on you like a strong current in a river. With each step, the presence loomed larger, until you could see the details. A face, pale as the winter moon, eyes like bottomless pits, a twisted smile creeping slowly across its lips. The urge to flee surged back, but your feet felt heavy, rooted in the earth as if the snow was pulling you down. "Help!" the figure croaked, the word barely a whisper carried away by the swirling winds. Help me, was it truly a plea for help? Or a lure to draw you deeper into the abyss? Confusion and fear twisted together inside you, choking your breath. In that moment, you had a choice: to listen to the heart-sick, helpless cry that echoed through the trees, or to turn and run back to the safety of the firelight. Your stomach churned with dread, the heavy weight of indecision pressing down. Yet, just as you opened your mouth to speak, a deafening crash echoed from deep in the woods, followed by an eerie silence that wrapped around you tighter than the frost itself. The figure twitched, its gaze intensifying. And then, in a heartbeat, it vanished. That moment of singular clarity jolted you back into action. You stumbled backwards, racing towards the cabin, heart hammering as fear propelled you through the snow. But even as you reached the door, you felt it. The presence was no longer just a ghostly figure in the woods. It was in the air you breathed. You flung the door shut, locked it tight, and leaned against it, gasping, but the silence outside was deceptive. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the cabin roof. Your breath caught. What was up there? And then you heard it again, the whisper, insistent and chilling, singing your name in a haunting melody that promised the truth was far worse than you could ever imagine. What awaited you in that flickering darkness? And what if the night stalker had other plans? A tension slithered through the air, thick and palpable, as you pressed your back against the cold wooden door. Every breath felt labored, like inhaling frost, yet the whisper seemed to coil around you, wrapping tighter, insistent. Come out, it breathed, a husky timbre laced with a mocking sweetness that chilled you deeper than the wind outside. You fought the urge to scream. Instead, you stood frozen, adrenaline coursing through your veins, whispering at the back of your mind that you needed to do something. The night itself felt alive, pressing against the cabin's walls, demanding you answer that ghostly beckoning. The thud returned, louder this time, reverberating through the floorboards and rattling the empty space in your chest. It was as if someone was making its way down from the roof. Your eyes darted to the window, a desperate need to see what lurked just beyond the glass. Outside, the wind howled fiercely, and the snowstorm now framed your view in a chaotic swirl of white. You could barely see the trees swaying like haunted giants. But then you noticed it movement in the shadows again, shifting unnaturally, weaving between the trunks like smoke. Help! The whisper seeped into your thoughts, wrapping around your mind like a vice. Let me in. Your heart raced as the chilling echo of that single word pulled at your sanity. But who were you really helping? You thought of the stories, the ones that painted macabre pictures of those who had strayed too close to the shadows. No, you shouted, your voice sounding foreign against the howling wind. But the whisper only grew louder, more urgent, as if your defiance was a game. The walls around you seemed to tighten, the shadows stretching towards you, pulling at the edges of your reality. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted on the other side of the door, the sound of wood splintering. The renewed rush of fear had you stumbling back several steps, nearly tripping over the coffee table. You turned to look for anything that could serve as a weapon. Your eyes fell upon a heavy iron poker by the hearth. In that moment, you became acutely aware of the difference between darkness outside and the encroaching dread inside. It was a line that blurred, threatening to erase the safety of the cabin. You gripped the poker tightly, knuckles white against the iron, and braced yourself. Then, with that powerful crash, the door shuddered, and the whispers coalesced into a symphony of anguished cries. You could hear them all, every voice from the past pulling at you, desperate for release. You couldn't allow them in. You wouldn't. The door shook again, more forcefully this time, as if something on the other side was ready to burst through. The walls creaked, and in an instant, a low growl reverberated through the timber, sending a paralyzing wave of sheer terror down your spine. Help me, please. You pressed your palms against the rough door, summoning any courage left within. What are you? You rasped. The whisper softened, laced now with an alluring tenderness. I only want to share my story. You can't leave until you understand. A pause engulfed the cabin, a deafening stillness that made the air feel thick, teetering on the brink of revelation or devastation. What had you invited into your world? And as you rallied the last fragments of your strength, you realized the real question was no longer about escape. It was about survival, And what would happen when the truth finally broke through that door? What story was waiting beyond the threshold? What unseen horrors would unravel? The door rattled once more, a furious bang followed by silence. You felt the weight of the room bearing down on you, a palpable pressure that urged you to crack the door open and peer through the crack. You couldn't. It was too dangerous. That voice, soft and seductive, danced in your mind, pulling you toward an abyss that whispered your name. Sweat trickled down your spine, making the iron poker slippery in your grip. The only sound now was the steady thud of your heart, matching the desperate rhythm of your breaths. The air surrounding you grew colder, sharp as ice, biting into your skin like a warning. Please, the voice pushed through again, a breathy plea layered with sorrow. I can help you see. See what? You shook your head, trying to drown out the noise. The shadows in the corners of the cabin seemed to stretch and shimmer, curling like smoke, beckoning with unspeakable promises. The room felt darker, the shadows shifting to form shapes that felt familiar and yet so utterly foreign. With shaking hands, you backed away from the door, heart thumping louder as you glanced around the cramped space. Your breath came short. You had to make a choice: fight or flee. But there was no escape with the storm raging beyond the thin walls. Tremors racked your body as the whispers escalated, swelling into a cacophony of cries and wails. Each sound clawed at the edges of your sanity. Help, release us, understand. They stormed your mind with images of loss, of regret. Faces long buried conjured up feelings you tried to forget. Were they real, or mere figments of this one dark night? In the rear of your thoughts, a sense of vulnerability began to bloom. What if they weren't just voices? Instead, trapped souls seeking solace, prisoners of the storm, forgotten until now, but their history was not yours. Go away, you screamed, voice cracking as the force of fear surged through you. The walls responded with a deep, groaning sound, like a creature recoiling in pain. What are you so afraid of? The voice murmured. I'm not your enemy. But you knew the truth, didn't you? It wasn't just the fear of what lay beyond the door that paralyzed you. It was your own terror that you might actually want to listen. Your curiosity teetered on the precipice of disaster, where understanding could lead to heartbreak, and then the silence. It was sudden. All at once, the wind outside hushed, the whispers fading into a haunting lull. Only the whispers of your own racing thoughts remained, swirling like the snowstorm out there. You strained your ears, desperately searching the stillness for an answer. Then, a soft sound came from the other side of the door, a gentle tapping, almost like fingers brushing against the wood. The voice returned, now a mere breath. Just one question: what is it that you fear the most? The question slithered through your mind, igniting fear deeper than the storm outside. You caught your breath, feeling the weight of the moment like an anchor. Suddenly, the door shook again, more violently this time, as if something within was bursting to get out. You took a step back, heart racing, fingers gripping the poker tighter until your knuckles turned white. What lay beyond could no longer be ignored. It was a darkness begging to be faced. With dawning resolve trickling in, you shouted, I want to know. Tell me your story. Silence stretched once more, crackling with energy as the whispers coalesced into one piercing scream that shattered the tension. The door splintered just as the night itself crescendoed. What was waiting to spill into the cabin? What truths were buried just beyond your reach? In that split second, the door gave way. Wood splintered and exploded inward, sending shards flying around the cramped cabin. Fear struck like lightning as you braced yourself, the poker raised, ready to face whatever nightmare was about to unfold. And there it stood, an apparition cloaked in darkness, an unsettling silhouette that glimmered with an ethereal light. It shimmered like the stars hidden behind the storm, eyes glowing with deep sorrow and anguish. A mixture of shock and revulsion gripped your heart, freezing you in place. Familiar yet foreign, it was a face you thought you'd never see again. Do you know me? The voice was both a whisper and a scream, reverberating in your head like a heavy tolling bell. You tried to answer, but the words stuck in your throat like a jagged fishbone, scratching your insides. You blinked, trying to clear your vision. The figure stepped forward, a comforting glimmer cutting through the chilling darkness. Memories flooded back, overwhelming and bittersweet. It was someone you loved, someone lost long ago. Why now? You gasped, heart pounding fiercely against your ribs. Why are you here? I've waited for you." The words trembled with an eternal sadness, vibrating through the air like an echo caught in time. "You've needed me." The storm outside roared in protest, matching the tempest in your soul. It felt impossible. Your mind spun with confusion and dread. Was this a cruel trick of the storm? A manifestation of your guilt? Or was it truly a piece of your past, clawing its way back into existence? "Release them," you shouted, terror bubbling to the surface. The figure flickered, the air thickening with more wails emerging from the shadows. Souls who had remained in a state of longing, pleading for recognition. Were they connected? Did their grief intertwine with yours, victims of lost roads and forgotten choices? Help us understand. More voices joined, a choir of souls, their anguish too raw to ignore. Remember us. With a sudden rush, old memories flooded back, memories you had buried deep. Faces smiling in old photographs, laughter during happier days, and behind that warmth lay darker moments, grief and regret that made your heart ache. You could feel a connection stretching through time, a connection that demanded resolution. But at what cost? Was it worth risking everything, delving into the depths of your own sorrow to set these lost souls free? The whispers grew louder, fraying your last threads of resolve. "I can't," you stammered, battling against the tide of despair that threatened to pull you under. "Please just go away." In that moment of desperation, the figure paused, softening. "We are tied. Release my hold, and you can find peace. Help us break the chain." A visceral spark ignited within you. Was it hope, or merely a trap waiting to ensnare you deeper into the darkness? The storm raged, thunder echoing like a heartbeat, as the shadows surged toward you, desperate and hungry. You took a trembling step forward, poker lowered, heart pounding. "What do you want from me?" A grin broke through the sorrow, illuminating parts of the figure, revealing eyes full of kindness and pain. To heal what was lost, to face the truth together. But outside, the blizzard howled mercilessly, and the shadows encroached, threatening to consume you whole. The promise of freedom dangled like a fragile thread. With a deep breath, you summoned every ounce of courage you had left. "Then show me." The shadows ebbed and surged toward you, and you felt the air shift, the weight of unfulfilled destinies and haunted dreams swirling around. Just as you were about to close the distance, the darkness surged violently, a howl erupting from the cabin, echoing into the night. Your vision blurred, and voices intertwined, forming an unbearable cacophony that shattered your sanity. But as the storm reached its peak outside, a fierce light began to envelop the shadows, fighting against despair. Suddenly, all went quiet. What had just been unleashed? Was it your own fears, or had you just ignited a battle between memories? The answers lay before you, but could you endure the revelation? A heavy silence cloaked the cabin, wrapping around you like a leaden shroud. The light flickering above dimmed, then reignited, casting strange shadows against the wooden walls. You felt the temperature drop, air thick with tension. It wasn't just the blizzard outside that chilled you. It was something deeper, a cold grip settling in your bones. The figure stood still, the sorrowful smile still flickering on its face. You searched for the right words, but they scattered like leaves in a hurricane. Every breath you took felt like an anchor dragging you down further into the tumult of fear and despair. This was not just an encounter. It was an awakening wrapped in dread. Why? You finally choked out. Why now? Why all of this? Because you are at a crossroads, the figure whispered, the voice woven with ancient gravity. You can choose to remember or continue to forget. The thought sent a shiver coursing through you. Remembering meant facing pain. It meant peeling back layers of safety you had so carefully built after loss. But forgetting was an empty promise, like a decaying dream. You didn't like either option. Both felt like a trap. The shadows responded. A swell of energy pulsed forward, reaching for you. Hungry for recognition, hungry for release. "We cannot stay lost, not when you hold the key," they cried out, their voices merging into a haunting hymn that echoed in your mind. "Stop. I can't." The word broke off in a whimper, almost swallowed by the rising storm outside. Yet even in that chaos, you felt a flicker of determination. You had witnessed their pain, and it mirrored your own. The ghostly figure stepped closer, as if inviting you to bridge the divide. Face the truth. Embrace your memories. Only then can we escape the chains that bind us, it urged, and every syllable dripped with urgency. With every beat of your heart, the shadows leaned in, pulling at the edges of your consciousness. Could you bear it? What truths lurked behind the veil of forgetfulness? You thought back to all those moments buried away, not just the happy ones, but the regrets too. The sullen faces, the words left unspoken, the mistakes that haunted you clung tighter now than ever before. Show me, you barely whispered, surrendering to the inevitable pull of the past. The shadows grew stronger, whispering secrets that wrapped around you like a vice. Images flooded your mind, faces you recognized, moments you wished you could change. Each emotion hit you like a tidal wave that a child's laughter echoed, memories of innocence before the darkness fell. Then the anguished cries of loss, tears that lingered long after the funeral, grief morphing into guilt. Your heart raced, and you felt dizzy as the floodgates broke. And just as the memories began to cascade, something shifted. The light enveloped you, banishing fear for a brief moment. But then came a roar from the shadows, visceral and wild. You must choose, they screamed, voices intertwining in a tempestuous frenzy, blocking your path to clarity. Choose what? You shouted over the noise, desperate to find an anchor in the storm of recollection. Between your past and the souls you hold captive, the figure insisted, its eyes glistening with urgency. Sacrifice the memory or embrace it, but no, the consequences will shape your fate. The air around you crackled with energy, and the shadows pressed closer, demanding your decision as if you were the key to their liberation. What lay ahead was shrouded in uncertainty and dread. Only one thing was clear. Whatever you chose, the sacrifice would be profound. Your resolve began to tremble as a sense of foreboding twisted your gut tight. As you stood caught between the realms of past and present, a shocking realization hit you like a hammer. Some choices were final, and the moment to act hung in the air, thick like smoke. But before you could think, the shadows surged, and everything faded into blinding darkness. What awaited you on the other side? Would you find peace, or plunge deeper into chaos? The darkness closed in, thick and suffocating, pressing against you until the air felt electric, crackling like a storm ready to burst. Confusion spun in your mind, and you felt unmoored, drifting. You tried to call out, but the sound got lost, swallowed by the silence of the void. All memory and sensation layered onto each other, moments of joy marred by sorrow, laughter dripping with cries. Then, like a candle flickering back to life, a shimmer appeared in the darkness. It was faint, like a whisper echoing from deep within the corridors of your mind. The figure re-emerged, its shape shifting like smoke, ever-present yet elusive. You must decide, it urged, the rough edges of its voice sharpening the tension you felt. Decide. But how? You gasped, the words tasting bitter. What if I choose wrong? Every choice is truth, the specter responded, its eyes now swirling pools of memory and consequence. Embrace what dwells in your heart, and those lost souls will follow you. Images rushed back in flashes, fingers intertwined on a swing, a sunset shared, and tears cascading down cheeks once warm with laughter. Each flicker brought a pang of regret. Those memories weren't just yours. They were anchors tethered to others long gone. Faces of loved ones, smiles turned to grief. You shuddered, questioning the weight of those memories. What if I can't bear the truth? The shadows thickened again, curling around your limbs, constricting as the figures within them begged for release, their ghostly eyes wide with desperation. Truth only hurts until it frees you, the apparition murmured, reaching out with a hand that felt both warm and cold at once. What of the ones you've settled with forgetting? Don't they deserve to be remembered? You felt a flood of emotions rise, stinging loss, bubbling anger, and suffocating guilt. The lines blurred between love and grief. But what if they want to forgive me? You questioned, the tremor in your voice a fragile thing. The figure's gaze intensified, drilling into you. Forgiveness is not theirs to give, nor is it yours to take. It is a release, a letting go, an act only you can grant to yourself and them. And suddenly, the shadows surged forward again, the voices merging into one deafening scream. Choose. Choose. Shaking, you closed your eyes, trying to anchor yourself in the memory of a happier time. The laughter of a child echoed, brightening the swirling darkness. You felt the tenderness of that moment enveloping you like a warm hug, and as you opened your eyes, you found the flickering figure stood before you, both a stranger and a piece of you. The chaos around you began to settle, but the shadows still pressed on, urging, begging. Your heart raced, the weight of the decision pulsing in your chest. I choose to remember, but what will it cost me? The figure smiled, the sorrowful expression easing slightly. Your heart will ache, but know that in pain, there is also clarity. While memories hold the shadows, they also shine light on your path forward. Are you prepared to face the truth? As that question hung heavy in the air, the darkness erupted again, swirling around you with a fury. You took a step back, suddenly afraid of what lay ahead. You can only emerge when you confront what you have buried deep. The figure bellowed as the tempest of whispers swelled. Was facing your past worth the risk of losing yourself in it once more? With your heart pounding, you felt as if the ground beneath your feet was crumbling, threatening to plunge you into the depths of chaos again. But the flickering image of joy lingered, softening the corners of your resolve. You took a deep breath, waiting for the shove that would plunge you into the unknown. What awaited in that abyss, just beyond memories? Could facing the darkness finally bring you the peace you sought, or would it unleash even greater horrors? The shadows exploded around you, twisting and swirling like a tornado of despair. Everything was a blur, a cacophony of voices pleading, whispering, and shouting. You felt your heart race, the pulse thrumming violently in your ears as you staggered backward. The figure before you wavered, its form bathing in the chaos like a distant lighthouse in a storm. Face it. The figure's voice rang with a clarity that cut through the noise. You have chosen to remember, now embrace what comes next. The chaos swirled around you, but felt slightly less suffocating now. It was oddly invigorating, like standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown for the taste of freedom. Steeling yourself, you grasped the edges of the memories that warped and twisted in the darkness, like a predator stalking its prey. With an anguished shout, you reached into the maelstrom. As your fingers brushed the surface of the images, they exploded into vivid colors and chaotic sounds. The laughter of children echoed, mixing with the hiss of angry ghosts, each pulling you deeper into their shared sorrow. You fought to hold on, allowing the memories to wash over and engulf you, seeking the truth hidden within. Suddenly, you found yourself standing in a familiar park, the sun casting bright rays on the scene before you. There they were, laughter ringing out like sweet music. A child's laughter, vibrant and innocent, echoed, accompanied by the soft rustle of leaves. You turned, caught between bliss and grief, and there stood a younger version of yourself, hand in hand with a child, your child eyes sparkling with innocent joy. But as quickly as the light emerged, it dimmed. The child turned to you with eyes that were wide and filled with understanding, and suddenly, the warmth of the moment shattered like glass. Why did you forget? The child's voice whispered, the words heavy with a haunting sadness. Why did you leave us behind? No, you cried out, your heart clenching in agony. I tried to hold on, but the truth clawed at you, raw and urgent. You had buried them beneath layers of grief and shame, hidden in the recesses of your mind, as if they were mere artifacts unworthy of remembrance. The darkness thickened again, embracing your limbs like an old enemy come to collect its due. It pressed your face into the ground of your own sadness. You cannot reclaim your light until you face the truth of your shadows. The figure's voice echoed, yet again a faint beacon slicing through the oppressive gloom. That as the shadows surged onward, a revelation struck. Fueled by desperation, you lashed out against the darkness, not with fear, but with the aching truth of that moment. I remember you. I remember what we lost. You shouted, tears cascading down your cheeks, each drop igniting the air with a furious determination. At your declaration, the darkness hesitated, the whispers faltering, as if caught off guard by the surge of raw emotion you had unleashed. You drew in a shaky breath, and with it came a surge of warmth, an ember igniting within the frozen grip of despair. But just as hope flickered in your chest, the figure loomed larger. Remembering is only the first step, it admonished. What will you do with that memory? The shadows slowed, almost curiously. You glanced around, seeing fragments of long-buried faces swirling like smoke, faces that demanded acknowledgement, that needed you to push through the fear weighing you down. Could you really bring their stories back into the light? Or would it mean facing the burden of guilt and sadness that weighed so heavily on your heart? As determination surged within you, a chilling realization washed over you. Embracing the memories might unearth something even more monstrous than you had faced before. In confronting the past, you could awaken forces long settled. The figure stepped closer, urging you. Only by facing the full truth can you find peace. Are you willing to take that leap? You felt the tendrils of darkness curl at your feet, whispering promises of doom mixed with the sweet scent of liberation. Could you confront not just the memory, but the consequences they would unleash? With every ounce of will, you took a step forward, ready to plunge headfirst into the abyss, but the shadows coiled tighter, ready to ensnare. What horrors lurked in the depths of your past, waiting for you to unveil them? The shadows pulsed, now alive with whispers, voices layered over one another, rising in a frenzy. Each sound felt like shards of glass piercing your skin, pushing you back in wavering steps. You pressed forward, heart pounding. Was it fear or something else? The figure loomed above you. Its eyes, piercing and hollow, reflected a desperation that mirrored your own. This is where you decide, where you reconnect with what was severed. It urged, its voice a tempest that grew louder with every word. Suddenly, the whispers turned into shrill screams. Your grip on the memories felt precarious, slipping like sand through your fingers. You closed your eyes, drowning in the chaos, trying to shelter your mind. But the truth surged like a tide, relentless and overwhelming. Visions took shape: the park, the laughter, followed by the haunting emptiness that clawed at your gut. You abandoned us, echoed the child's voice in your mind, an accusation wrapped in sorrow. The shadows thickened, coiling around your legs and pulling you down, a weight pressing on your chest. You gasped for air as the figure stepped closer, each movement deliberate and strong. You have the power to illuminate. Accept it. You forced your eyes open. There, within the shadows, faces emerged from the void, each one familiar, yet distorted, eyes searching and pleading. They were the remnants of a life filled with love and loss. Each face painted a story, each moment a ghost tethering you to the guilt you desperately tried to shake off. Embrace your pain. Only then will you set them free. The figure's intensity heightened, its presence almost consuming your frail will. Free? You stammered, anguish flooding your senses. Free to confront the rubble of memories and the weight of their anguish? The fear twisted into a knot in your stomach, intertwining with the guilt that had become an old friend. Face it. You cannot ignite the light without first burning through the darkness. The figure's voice shattered through the noise, a burst of clarity in the oppressive storm. You hesitated, wrestling within. Flames flickered at the edge of your thoughts, a spark of defiance igniting against the haunting shadows. With each heartbeat, determination rose, fierce and unyielding. I remember the joy. I remember them. You shouted, the words tearing from your throat, a battle cry in the realm of despair. The darkness thrashed violently, the whispers erupting into a cacophony. But at what cost? Shrieked the voices, a surge of cold dread washing over you. Panic threatened, clawing at your resolve as faces contorted in anguish surrounded you, swirling faster, the chaos reaching a fever pitch. Each face demanded acknowledgement, each voice amplified the fear nesting in your heart. You felt the ground beneath you shift, the shadows swirling in greater ferocity, highlighting the choice laid bare before you. To embrace the fractured memories meant warping reality further, risking everything. A fire ignited inside, and it urged you forward. I won't run anymore. Holding onto that warmth, you took another step, forcing your way deeper into the storm. The figure's eyes locked onto yours, an unspoken connection thriving between you both. But then, a powerful surge of wind spun through the darkness, and with it came a chilling whisper that slithered through the chaos. Watch your step, what you unearth may devour you whole. The shadows shifted, embracing you with icy fingers, drawing you closer to buried truths long hidden. You clenched your fists, heart racing. Could you truly confront what lay in the depths? A sickening realization struck you: had already begun the descent. What awaited in the shadows was darker than you ever dared to imagine what awaited you on the other side of that threshold. The silence enveloped the cabin like a thick fog, pressing down on your shoulders as you braced for the unknown. Shadows danced across the walls, swirling in chaotic patterns that mirrored the turmoil within you. You stood at the precipice of choice, heart pounding with anxious dread. Giving in to a burning urge, you took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. Your voice rang out like a defiant bell, cutting through the suffocating darkness. I remember. I want to let you take me again. With those words, a crack of light burst forth, pushing against the suffocating murk. The shadows recoiled, revealing glimpses of familiar faces, lost souls who had waited, trapped between worlds. That a lone child's laugh echoed, vibrant and sweet, piercing through the storm in a way that wrapped around your heart like a long-lost hug. Their face flickered into view, bright and innocent. Mom. The voice called, pure, innocent. The sight set your entire core afire. No. Please, not you. The agony of regret flared hot, a knife twisted in your gut, as you recalled all that you'd lost. Tears poured down your cheeks, each drop releasing a torrent of pain and love twisted together in a suffocating embrace. You had buried them, every smile, every laugh, and it had cut deeper than the biting cold outside. With shaking, desperate hands, you reached out, fingers brushing the warm light breaking through the darkness. I'm sorry. You cried out, voice raw. I remember now. I've always remembered it was me who forgot how to carry you with me. The air around you thrummed with energy, shadows morphing into swirls of warmth, wrapping around you like a blanket. From the depths of the void emerged the figure, now somehow different, gentler, almost comforting. Let them in. Love doesn't vanish. It lingers in the spaces we wish to forget, it urged, voice laced with the warmth of past affection. As light erupted within you. Memories cascaded forth, not just the warmth of laughter, but the weight of sorrow too. The truth rushed hard and fast, like an avalanche you could no longer outrun. You had to embrace each piece, every happy moment, and every painful one. As you stood, engulfed in this tempest of recollections, the voices whispered around you, igniting with urgency. Remember us. We have always been with you, waiting for you to see. With a newfound clarity, you began to pull them in, inviting every heartache close. As the memories coiled around you, the darkness began to waver, shrinking back as warmth spread through your veins, unbinding the knots of grief. I embrace you, all of you. You shouted, words filled with steely resolve. The ethereal glow surged, filling the wood-paneled walls, pouring through each crack and crevice, dispelling the cold claws that would drag you back. In that moment, it felt as though the entire cabin breathed. Your heart beat in sync with the echoes of the past, a soothing rhythm that whispered of unity, a connection forged through love and remembrance. You released the dark hold of resentment and guilt, letting it dissolve in the cleansing light. Suddenly, a bright burst enveloped you, deeper than your shadows had ever dared to tread. An explosion of warmth, boundless love echoed off the walls as familiar faces filled the cabin, their eyes shining with approval and strength. Now, you can go, the figure said gently, the tension in its voice fading. You have freed us. Through tear-slicked cheeks, realization dawned. The road ahead was no longer clouded by the fear of their loss. Instead, it was illuminated by their memory, reminding you that love could transcend the boundary between realms. You had chosen life in remembering. You would carry them within your heart and move forward. As the blizzard outside surrendered to dawn, colors burst past the horizon, spilling golden light across the snow. You took a deep, cleansing breath, feeling lighter, unburdened. With one last glance towards the once haunting shadows still swirling, you stepped out of the cabin, free from the cold grasp of despair. A smile crossed your lips, radiant and true. You held the warmth of your memories close, blending with the gentle winds that whispered your name. Embraced now by a new day, you understood. Those lost weren't gone. They were part of you, echoed in every corner you turned, every step you took. This was how you moved forward, unyielding yet tender, living for those who had shaped you. And as the first rays of warmth kissed your skin, you whispered into the morning light, "Thank you." Don't wait. even one more second. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button, let's feed the algorithm, and keep the magic going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this finale. I want to hear your thoughts. And remember to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.